It is the 23rd of August, and we just come to the fifth book, the last book of the Samyutta Nikaya. It's called the Mahavagga, the Great Vagga, the Great Book. It is called the Great Book because out of the 5 books of the Samyutta Nikaya, it is the biggest. And it consists of 1,197 suttas in this translation by Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, and nearly 1,200 suttas here in this fifth book. And unlike some of the other books, this one has 8 chapters out of the total of 12, which are quite sizable. Unlike some of the previous books, you only have 1 sizable chapter, but here you have 8 sizable chapters out of the 12. And in the Buddha's teachings, there are a set of 7 things said to be training factors that are the core of the Buddha's teachings, dealing with meditation. And all these 7 sets are to be found here. Later commentarial books call them the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas, the 37 requisites of enlightenment. And what are these? This book starts with the Samyutta number 45, the first chapter. So Samyutta number 45 consists of the Noble Eightfold Path. And then chapter 46 concerns the 7 Bojjhangas, factors of enlightenment. And then 47 is about the Satipatthana, the 4 Satipatthana in 10 states of recollection. 48 is the 5 faculties, Pancha Indriyani. And then 49 is the 4 right efforts, Samappadana. 50 is the 5 powers, Bala. 51 is the 4 bases of psychic power, Iddhipada. So all these are found here. So, and like some of the other books, these are all important topics. Now, just to quote from Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi's notes, to gain irreversible release from suffering, we have to cut through the tangle of craving and clinging. And for this disentanglement to be final and complete, we must extricate the most deeply buried root of all, namely ignorance. The direct antidote to ignorance is knowledge, not mere conceptual knowledge, but direct insight into things as they really are. And it was one of the Buddha's key discoveries that the knowledge needed for liberation can be developed. Such knowledge does not depend on divine grace or arise as a mystical intuition, but emerges out of a matrix of persistent spiritual practice governed by a precisely articulated ground plan. This course of practice is a process of self-cultivation sustained by the unvarying laws of conditionality. The different factors embedded in the 7 sets are the qualities that need to be developed. They are the conditions which, when methodically generated and fortified, directly conduce to the arising of the liberating knowledge. These 7 sets of things that amount to 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas. It is stated in some sutta that when you perfect the Noble Eightfold Path completely, then all the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas are also perfected. But actually out of these 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas, the most important is the first chapter that we're going to study. That is the Magga Samyutta, because Magga means path and refers to the Noble Eightfold Path. If there is one way out of suffering, or only one path out of suffering, it is the Noble Eightfold Path, not the others. The Noble Eightfold Path is the most complete path. I read to you again this notes by Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi on page 1494 on Magga Samyutta. The best known of the 7 sets is of course the Noble Eightfold Path, announced already by the Buddha in his first sermon at Varanasi and repeatedly referred to throughout his discourses. The Noble Eightfold Path is given such prominence not only because it has an honored place as the 4th of the 4 Noble Truths and is thus comprised within the chief doctrine of early Buddhism, but because it is the most comprehensive of the 7 sets. Its 8 factors have a wider scope than the others, making the practice of the Dhamma a complete way of life. The Eightfold Path spans the 3 trainings in virtue, sila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, panya. It guides action of body, speech, and mind, and it transforms our ordinary conduct, thought, and view into the conduct, thought, and view of the Noble Ones. The other sets, though oriented towards the same goal, are more restricted in scope, pertaining almost exclusively to the meditative phase of the Eightfold Path. On page 1495, on gaining faith in the Buddha in its role as the Tathagata, the supreme guide to deliverance, the disciple must first arrive at a clear conceptual understanding of the teaching, particularly with respect to the principle of karma and its fruit, and the 4 Noble Truths. This is the right view, samadhi, in its embryonic stage. Right view alters the disciple's motives and purposes, steering him or her away from sensuality, ill will and cruelty towards renunciation, benevolence and compassion. This is right thoughts, samma sankappa. Guided by right thoughts, the disciple undertakes the 3 ethical factors of the path: right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Standing on this foundation of virtue, the disciple trains the mind by diligently and energetically developing the 4 intense states of recollection, satipatthana. That is, right effort applied to the practice of right recollection. When the effort bears fruit, the disciple enters and dwells in the 4 jhanas. This is right concentration, samma samadhi. And this first chapter of the book, Magga Samyutta, comprises 180 suttas. Okay, now we'll go into the Magga Samyutta on page 1523. This is the 45th chapter of the Samyutta Nikaya. The first sutta I'll read, 45.1. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There the Blessed One addressed the monks thus: "Monks, Venerable Sir," those monks replied. The Blessed One said, "Monks, ignorance is the forerunner in the entry upon unwholesome states, with shamelessness and fearlessness of wrongdoing following along. For an unwise person immersed in ignorance, wrong view springs up. For one of wrong view, wrong thoughts spring up. For one of wrong thoughts, wrong speech springs up. For one of wrong speech, wrong action springs up. For one of wrong action, wrong livelihood springs up. For one of wrong livelihood, wrong effort springs up. For one of wrong effort, wrong recollection springs up. For want of wrong recollection, wrong concentration springs up. Monks, true knowledge is the forerunner in the entry upon wholesome states, with the sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing following along. Stop here for a moment. This sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing is called hiri ottappa. For a wise person who has arrived at true knowledge, right view springs up. For one of right view, right thoughts spring up. For one of right thoughts, right speech springs up. For one of right speech, right action springs up. For one of right action, right livelihood springs up. For one of right livelihood, right effort springs up. For one of right effort, right recollection springs up. For one of right recollection, right concentration springs up. It's the end of the sutta. So here the Buddha says that true knowledge is the entry upon wholesome states. True knowledge means knowledge of the Buddha's words found in the suttas. Because if you listen to the Buddha's words in the suttas, then you will have you will know what is hiri ottappa, a sense of shame. You will possess a sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing. And then also when you have true knowledge of the Buddha's words, you attain right view. Right view is the entry into the Noble Eightfold Path. Without right view, we have not entered the Noble Eightfold Path. And in Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, I think Sutta 117, the Buddha says that the Noble Eightfold Path must be cultivated in a systematic way. Must always start with right view. After right view, after you attain right view will bring you to right thoughts. And right thoughts will bring you to right speech, which will bring you to right action, which will bring you to right livelihood, which will bring you to right effort, and that will bring you to right recollection, and that will bring you to right concentration. So right view is the entry into the Noble Eightfold Path. But for right view to arise, you must listen to the Buddha's words, which will give you true knowledge. All right, that is the true Dhamma. 45.2. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling among the Sakyans, where there was a town of the Sakyans named Nagaraka. Then the Venerable Ananda approached the Blessed One. Having approached, he paid homage to the Blessed One, sat down to one side and said to him, Venerable Sir, this is half of the holy life, that is, good friendship, good companionship, good comradeship. And the Buddha said, not so, Ananda, not so, Ananda. This is the entire holy life, Ananda, that is, good friendship, good companionship, good comradeship. When a monk has a good friend, a good companion, a good comrade, it is to be expected that he will develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying good friendship, good comradeship is the whole of the holy life. That means you want to practice the holy life. Having a good friend, a good comrade is extremely important. This word in Pali, I think, is Kalyana Mitta. In Chinese, is translated as good knowing advisor, San Zhi Si. And the Venerable Ananda thought is 50% of the holy life has to do with a good comrade, but the Buddha says it's 100%. So in our case, the best Kalyana Mitta we can have is the Buddha. The Buddha's words he has left for us, so that is the best Kalyana Mitta we can have. The only problem is sometimes when you study the Buddha's words, there are certain things you may not understand. So if you can find another